This episode of Recording Studio Rockstars is brought to you by Isotope, Atom Audio, Native Instruments, Lewitt, Spectra 1964, and OWC. You're hearing my voice right now on the Lewitt Pure Tube microphone through the Spectra 1964 STX 100D mic pre and C610 complementer mixed with Isotope RX, Ozone, Neutron, and Nectar, all recorded safely onto an OWC SSD and mixed on Atom Audio monitors. Please check out our awesome sponsors using the link in the show notes. It's a great way for you to help support this show. Now get ready to rock.
We have this 30-day money-back warranty, and it's not like, well, if the mic will be broken, then send it back. It's more like, well, try 2 mics. We will take it back from you for free. It's like you have nothing to lose, and there are some engineers that really buy 3 mics, and they immediately say, I will return 2 of them. And I'm like, okay.
Welcome to Recording Studio Rockstars. I'm Lij Shaw, and this is the podcast created to help you become a rock star of the recording studio. Howdy, rock stars. I've got a secret to tell you about how I get a consistent sound mixing over 1,000 hours of recording studio rock stars. My secret is using Isotope, RX, Ozone, Neutron, and Nectar to make this podcast sound great. Right now, you're hearing RX breath control, D-click, D-clip, DS, D-plosive, voice denoise, Ozone multiband compression, Neutron EQ, and limiting, all from Isotope. Go to isotope.com and use the secret code ROCK10 to get 10% off. My studio is proudly powered by OWC, and I love how it's improved my workflow. OWC can connect all your audio work drives, trackballs, mix controllers, MIDI keyboards, audio interfaces, displays, or cameras so that you can work fast and focus on making your best record ever. Go look at the Mini Stack STX, Thunder Bay 4, or Gemini Thunderbolt 3 dock at macsales.com/rockstars to find the perfect solution for your studio from OWC. And thanks for using our custom link in the show notes. Howdy, rock stars. It's your host, Lij Shaw, and welcome back to Recording Studio Rockstars, bringing you into the studio to learn from recording professionals so that you can make your best record ever and be a rock star of the studio yourself. My guest today is Andris Zemmers, the marketing director and member of the board of JZ Microphones in Latvia that makes premium-level studio microphones used by many Grammy Award-winning producers and world-class music stars such as Mick Jagger of the Rolling Stones, Bono of U2, Lady Gaga, Christina Aguilera, Foo Fighters, and many more. In fact, you're hearing my voice right now on the JZ V12 also. Andris is also a successful musician on a national level in his home country of Latvia. Today, his pop rock band Neon Saturdays has many top 10 radio singles nationally. Andris has been with JZ Microphones for 11 years and is responsible for the big success with JZ direct-to-consumer online store. I'm very excited to have Andris joining us today on the podcast because I've been a big fan of JZ Microphones for a number of years, and we've actually worked closely with them through Recording Studio Rockstars. I've been able to make some wonderful videos demonstrating the different microphones that they create, and I'm a big fan of theirs. So I think that they're an excellent choice for your studio rock stars. So it's very cool to have Andris joining us directly on the show to talk about this today. So please welcome Andris Zemmers to Recording Studio Rockstars. Andris, my man, are you ready to rock?
I'm definitely ready to rock. Thanks for having me, Lij.
Dude, I have to ask, man. How do you say, are you ready to rock? Or how do you say I'm ready to rock in Latvian?
Well, it's vai tu esi gatavs.
Vai tu esi gatavs. I love it. I didn't
Yeah,
know what
something
I
like
just
that.
That's great. My assistant Vlad is Latvian as well, and I know you guys have met. And he's very patient with me as I try and pronounce his name correctly. He finally just goes, that's good enough. I seem to never quite get it right. Give us a little bit more of an introduction to who you are. I've known you through Jay-Z Microphones. You're also a recording artist yourself. Tell us a little bit about your background of getting into music and then ending up working with Jay-Z Microphones.
Yes, well, music was or still is in my life since second grade when I started playing trumpet, all the brass band classes and stuff like that. And at age 15 or 16, I remember I kind of had an idea to kind of, build a band and start singing and start playing guitar. And, that led to several bands and all the high school, stuff, and touring around in Latvia and writing singles, writing songs. But the whole journey when I was after university, when I was 20 or 21, I needed a job, and I remember that the Jay-Z Microphones was a new company back then in Latvia, but I knew them because, Latvia is a very small country. It's 2 million people.
I think it goes back to what, 2007, right?
Yeah, around 2007. And one of my friends, actually also from my hometown, he was working there. His name is Andris, and he was working there. And I was almost begging him and sending SMS, oh, maybe I can work there, And then the journey started, and it was very interesting, building my band and all the success that we had in Latvia, and started working as a marketer there, like basically from scratch, knew nothing about it.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. That's cool. It's funny. 2007 is also when I opened the doors to my studio, to the Toy Box studio. So here we are working together, having been kind of in existence for the same amount of time. That's great.
Yeah.
Now, Jay-Z, of course, stands for Joris Zarins. Am I pronouncing that right? Okay. And he's the founder. And he is somebody that you work closely with?
Yeah. Well, I met Joris, which is, and basically was because he passed away like 4 years ago or something. And he was a founder of Jay-Z Microphones. He was actually a founder of Blue back in 1995-ish, something like that.
Right.
And he was, quite recently, I read a few interviews with him. He was a very interesting guy. Like how he thought about microphones was just mind-blowing. That's why he was able to, craft several brands of mics.
Talk a little bit about what you learned about how he thought about microphones. So, for example, I know one of the features that you guys talk about at Jay-Z Microphones is the golden drop capsule design. And my understanding is that has to do with a special patented way of coating the diaphragms of the microphones for an even coating of the dialectic. I don't even know what kind of language to use for that.
Yes, well, Joris as a craftsman, or like as a professional, he was a jeweler. He was a professional jeweler. He was making
jeweler,
jeweler, yes.
Oh,
and
nice.
But back in late 80s, he started like a side hustle repairing, classical Neumann mics, AKJs, and Soviet mics too. And he quickly realized that the most important part of the mic is capsule. And that's back then, as I read, back then there were only 3 companies in the world making the capsules for condenser mics. Remember, it was before all the new brands, before Blue. It was when there were only like 5 or 6 brands in the world of the mics.
Yeah.
And he just knew that he needed to crack this capsule code. And I think he cracked it. He made, Blue was a very successful company. And but what I found interesting working with him is that he always kind of pushed this idea that we have to be different. You can't, there are like 60, maybe more microphone companies in the world, and you really have to be different. And that's why, for example, Jay-Z has totally different design. All the other mics in the industry back then, they were like tube-like, they looked like a metal tube, like cylinders. But our mics are totally different, and the same with the capsule. And that's very interesting. Like how like back in 90s, you know, without internet, without anything, it was, you know, pure genius, I think.
Yeah, you guys have unique shapes. So the V12 that I'm speaking into right now, it's more of a flat shape. It almost reminds me of like a flat ribbon mic kind of housing. You know, sometimes the older ones were like that. And then of course the BH1, the black hole, is just like a completely unique design with a really unusual microphone holder. And, you know, some other things that I love about these, of course, is the way the mounting is on there. Even on this stand that I'm using right now for my voice, there's a pivot ball on there. So it makes it very easy to just pivot it into place. And in fact, in one of the videos I did, I think it was which one was it? It was the maybe the 67 and the V11. And I showed different ways to just sort of pivot the mic right into the perfect position on an amp. And it was really remarkable. Like you could put the mic right on a guitar amp and then just kind of pivot it and rotate it a little bit until you like the sound the most. And then you just lock it right into place. And I found myself actually putting it into a mic position that was something I would not have selected normally. I wouldn't have done it by eye, you know? Yeah,
that's very good to hear, actually.
Yeah, I really was just able to hear it with my ears. Well, that's cool. So, Joris, you know, it's funny hearing about the jeweler background too. I know that's like every once in a while, YouTube, I'm maybe like lots of us a big fan of YouTube. I probably watch just, you know, when we were little, we turn on the TV. Now I just turn on YouTube.
Yes.
But one of the videos that it will feed me are these videos of people, real craftsmen, like jeweler craftsmen, who will, you know, bring an old lighter that's covered in rust back to life, or they'll, you know, repair an old watch. And I
love these. I actually love these. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes me think how cool it would be to see videos from you guys too, where you just like completely get into the teeny tiny details of building the microphones, like jeweler style, you know? Well, tell us a little bit more about the Golden Drop capsule. What is that?
Yeah. Well, if we look what engineers and producers, what they want from the sound, and most of the engineers want clear, open, transparent, you know, sound very, very close to real life, and maybe even better. But it's very essential for them to kind of, you know, hear all the tiniest little detail. And to make that happen, it's, you know, it's basic physics. Like the capsule, like there is a membrane, which is like a, you know, very, very, very thin plastic layer covered with gold, like gold coated or gold sputtered. And it moves. You know, you blow the air and it kind of resonates, and that makes the sound. And what's interesting, the thinner or the lighter this membrane, the kind of faster it resonates. And you know, if, for example, if you take a thick piece of paper or thin piece of paper, if you blow the air, you will see, like, you know, the thin one will kind of resonate much faster. And that's basically the logic under the Golden Drop capsule technology. Our capsules, like the diaphragms, are way much lighter, and that's why they kind of make very, very clear and open sound. And that's very interesting. Like whenever we ship new mic to, I don't know, a YouTuber or an artist or a producer or a client, the first thing that they will ever say is like, wow, well, that's amount of detail.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, you know, and that's thanks to the Golden Drop capsule technology. It's not just, you know, lots of companies are making these things up, you know, this is like marketing thing, you know, just to sell the mics. But I've been in our factory like several times, and these are real things.
Yeah. Hey rock stars, have you checked out Native Instruments recently? Look, no matter what style of music you make, Native Instruments gives your studio everything you need, from drums, loops, and beats to the coolest synths, realistic strings, guitar amps, and futuristic synth pads. I personally love recording and tracking real bands in my studio, but then also adding awesome overdubs from Battery, Contact, Massive X, Super 8, Guitar Rig, and Hybrid Keys, for example. Go pick up Complete Start for free today with a bundle of 2,000 sounds and 6 gigs of samples over at nativeinstruments.com and use the code ROCK10 to get 10% off. Some restrictions apply. Atom Audio can provide all your monitor needs, whether you're setting up a first-time home studio for recording music or podcasts, or a world-class full-size studio for professional mixing and mastering in stereo or immersive sound. Featuring the XART tweeter and custom DSP onboard processing, the A-series monitors will perfectly adapt to your studio. Get the Atom Audio monitors and subwoofers that are right for you with an extended 5-year warranty at atomaudio.com. Yeah, it's pretty cool, and I definitely noticed that right away. I mean, rock stars, maybe you can hear a lot of detail in my voice right about now. As he leans in and does his best radio voice. They definitely pick up a lot of detail, and it's fun because when you're recording, if you really work with a great mic preamp and you turn it up so that you're really, you're working with a hot mic, especially if you're playing an acoustic instrument or something like that, it's just wild to hear tons of the sound of the detail of what you're playing come back to you in the microphone. And it makes it really cool. And it creates an opportunity as a musician to start playing new ideas, because now your instrument is that much more expanded, what's possible, so it's very cool to do it. And now the other thing about your mics is they really all do have different personalities and different sounds. And sometimes it's hard to know how to describe things like that, but I think we'll get into that more in this interview. But one of the things that I had the pleasure of doing is because I have a number of the different microphones from you guys. Hopefully I won't forget one here, but the BH1, the BB29, the Amethyst, the V12, the V47, the V67, the V11, 7 different microphones. And I was able to do a video where I demonstrated, what do they all sound like on the same instruments? Because why wouldn't you want to hear that, So Rockstars, we will have a link to that in the show notes. Make sure you check out that YouTube video I did. And we'll have the link in there. And the actual title is Jay-Z Microphone Shootout, and that lists all the names of it with audio demos. And it's cool because even I go back to that video I did just before a session. I'm like, oh, which Jay-Z mic do I want to use on the acoustic today or whatever? And I go listen. I'm like, oh, I'm feeling that one today, But so that's a great way to really get a sense of it. And I think we'll talk about the frequency responses as well here in a little bit. But let's go back to you again for a moment here. Andris, tell us about doing the band thing. So what are some of the musical artists and bands that really inspired you to want to get into music in the first place?
When I started learning guitar, it was in the 5th or 6th grade. My first band crash, I don't know, it was just the Beatles. My guitar coach, he loved the Beatles. I think he's the biggest fan in my home country in Latvia. He has all the albums, CDs, vinyls, and all, tons of them. And I just love them. And for many years I was just listening to Beatles, then maybe AC/DC, then Queen, all the stuff that guitar players listen to.
Yeah. What's your favorite guitar to play?
It changed actually. It started with a Stratocaster, classical Fender Stratocaster, but
yeah,
eventually over time I kind of start loving more like Tele. I like Telecaster more, But then, of course, there were records when I needed more like less polished sound, something like that.
Yeah.
But it depends, you know.
I need a telly.
Telly is great. It has some kind of soul to that sound.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the way a telly kind of breaks up and gives you this great thin tone when you need it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Richard Thompson was somebody I was a real fan of as a guitar player. And I think I learned later on that he was big on the telly. And I was like, oh, that's the sound I want right there. I think he played a Strat though, too. He probably played everything. What about acoustic? Are you a big acoustic player as well?
It started with acoustic, definitely. Like for many, many years, it was only acoustic. You know, I kind of actually, for many, many years, leaned towards acoustic, and then kind of discovered, you know, the lead guitar stuff, all the riffs, solos, licks, you know, all this language. It was a bit later. But yeah, the first guitar I had, it was just a very, very basic acoustic guitar for like 3 or 4 years.
Tell us about your experience using Jay-Z mics to record guitars.
I remember we were recording first album, and back then I was already with the Jay-Z mics, so I had very, you know, good pleasure.
You had whatever mics you wanted.
Yeah, and we had in that studio we had all the Neumanns, all the AKGs, everything, and I also, you know, took all the whole Jay-Z line, and I remember my favorite mic right from the get-go was V67 on everything. It was Black Hole was a bit too kind of harsh for my voice, as maybe because, you know, it's just a tonality. V67 was like the perfect. It was like, you know, like a magic wand for everything, and especially on grand piano, on acoustic guitar, it just works.
Yeah, I love the V67. You know, it's interesting when I think about the tonalities of the vintage series. So Rockstars, there's what do we have? 4 mics in the vintage series.
Yes.
The V67, V47, V12, and V11. And the 67, 47, and V12 they look more similar than the V11, and they also sound a little more similar. They're more subtle differences. Of course, they are modeled after, I think the names of the microphones ultimately come from the original capsule names, right?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yeah, yes, correct.
So V67 and was it called a V67 or a K67 originally, the capsules?
K, right? It was K, yes.
Yeah. And so these original capsule designs, I don't know quite what the difference is. Do you feel like you can talk about how the capsules are physically different from each other?
Yes. Well, I kind of digged a bit in this topic, I know, because, you know, I was curious why all the mics sound different, and they sound different because of some of like a few details, and the details are like very, very simplistic. Like, for example, where are the screws on the brass capsule?
Wow.
Because, you know, there are 2 rings that holds the diaphragm, and they are screwed together. And where are the screws and where are the cable coming? It impacts the sound. And then, for example, there's the capsule gets, you know, some companies glue the whole thing together. Some companies pressurize, you know, put pressure on this so, you know, it doesn't break. But basically, yeah, little things like glue, position of a cable, screws, how many screws, in what kind of pattern, these little things impact the sound.
Now, do you think that originally capsule designs were something that people just figured out ways to make capsules and then they found out what they sounded like and they said, oh, this one sounds good? Or is there a science to it where people like Juris were designing how to make the capsule, and they knew that if they used 6 screws instead of 5 screws, for example, or whatever it is, that it would change the frequency response at a certain cue point?
Yes. I think back in the day, like whenever Neumann started making the mics and capsules, it was more like a, you know, happy accident. they make this model, they made that model, and they sound it in their particular way. But for example, when I know about yours, that at the beginning he knew how to replicate the classical capsules, like the classical 67 type capsule, 47 type capsule, etc. But when he made new mics, like Vintage 11 is the mic that was made in 2011.
Yeah. Okay.
That's why there is 11. And for example, Black Hole is basically the mic that kind of put Jay-Z as a brand on the map.
Yeah.
They don't, like Black Hole and V11, they don't have like not a copy capsules, but they don't have like capsules
There's
with
no predecessor.
Yeah, they are unique. And yours, kind of the thing that you mentioned, he kind of knew that this kind of screw pattern, these kind of components, this kind of form of the brass or thickness of the brass, it tends to make this sound. So he kind of reversed engineered, and he wanted to create a modern sound, like very, very flat, very natural, without any kind of warm character or something like that. And that's how Black Hole series was born. And the same with Vintage series. Like, we wanted a mic that's way much darker, because people love ribbon mics because they are so much like fluffier, smoother, and darker. And that, like, V11 is the closest version that we can get to it.
Yes, absolutely. I love that you just said that, because that was my immediate impression when I heard the V11. I was like, whoa, this reminds me of a ribbon mic.
Yeah.
Immediately, things that I used it on where it reminded me of a ribbon mic. It sounds great right on a horn.
Yeah.
Which a ribbon does as well. Like, you could stick it right in front of the bell of a trumpet and have somebody play right into it. And that's what we did at my Bonnaroo studio. We'd always pull that out for for trumpets and horns, and it just sounds great. It just like it mellows out what needs to be mellowed out in a horn part, And then the other thing that it did that was very remarkable to me is if I used it on drums, especially if I used it in the right position on drums, I had noticed this with a ribbon mic before. With I have a Coles 4038, and I noticed with that, when you record drums, you could, for example, have somebody hit two toms, just go doom like that, and with compression, you'd hear the toms, you'd hear the sustain, and then afterwards you'd hear the very last like breath of the sub low end, and it would go like room, and it would make your sub just go like, oh my God, that's amazing sounding, and it would give you this incredible low end. And I heard that right away with the V11. I was like, holy shit, man, that sounds killer, So I've always been using, I love using the V11 on, if I'm going to mic up a bass cabinet. I love using it I use it often as my centerpiece mic for the drum kit. So I actually, this is a lesson that I learned from Al Evans being on the podcast, this idea of the one microphone that just goes right sort of above the kick beater, and it's between the kick and the snare and in the middle of the toms. And if you compress that and do that just right, it picks up the whole drum kit. It's this great like one mic soul drum kit sound. But that was very cool, and I was really struck by that. And when I went to go look at the frequency charts, which I just started looking at recently, the V11 particularly shows that too. It shows a low end boost going on that's different from the other mics. So it's cool to see. Yeah, you can really see.
I really like V11 on like all the ambient sources, like for example, room sound for the drums.
Yeah,
it's very, very ribbon-like.
I need to try that. I don't think I've used it as a room mic yet. I need to just go put it, move it back from the drum kit. That's one of the hardest things to do, is to really try each mic in each different place that you can try it. Sometimes you find something that works and you're like, oh, great. And then you just keep using that over and over again. And then it's fun when somebody comes along and says, oh, you haven't used it over here yet? You got it in the wrong place. You got to put it over here,
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. So, all right. So the V11 and the Black Hole are both unique. I think it's interesting to hear you say for the Black Hole that he was looking for kind of a flat microphone. Let me see if I can pull up. Let me see if I have the frequency response. I think I have to click through again. I thought I had them open already, but I don't. Oh, I don't have it in front of me. All right, so I'm going to have to, maybe you might have to tell us what's going on with the frequency charts on these. But with the Black Hole, I think it is a flatter frequency response than the vintage mics, which have a little bit more of a, you know, like a lift in the high end and things like that, right?
Yes. The Black Hole for me, it's a bit it seems a bit brighter, but it's not. It's actually, it is the closest as we can get to. I often joke and call it like a measurement microphone, you know, which is like totally flat. But totally flat microphones are very, very boring usually for especially for singers' ear. When you're singing, like flat mic is, you know, you want that, you know, a bit of push around, like, I don't know, 3 or 5K. You want that. And I have a frequency response graph in front of me, and it is close to flat compared to vintage mics. And especially compared to, like, we have like vintage 12, which is it has a very nice boost in a high end, and it's around like 5 to 7K. And it's very, I know for some people that try like V67, and then we send the V12 and they're like, wow, this one is even better. But you know, for some people that's a bit too bright.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me. So I actually, when I listen to the mics, my ear says the V11 is dark, the V47 is sort of dark mid-range, and then the next high frequency is the V67, and then the V12 is even more high frequency than that. That's the way my ear hears it. But when I look at the charts, I realize that it's like they're all just slightly having a little bit of a lift in a slightly different range. And you're hearing the V12 right now, Rockstars. So let me describe a little bit of what the frequency chart is saying. So the frequency chart under my voice right now, as I say this, it goes up to about 1.5K, and then it dips down in the 2K to 3K range a little bit. And I think that's one of the things that I liked about it, is that it you know, I have S's in my voice. I just have S's. You know, it's just the way my mouth is built. And so what I think I appreciated about the V12 is it like takes the 2K, 3K range for me is kind of harsh on an S, you know, and it takes that and it puts that down a little bit, and it moves the high boost up higher, like Andris just said, like 5K to 10K area. So it's like it shifts it up, which gives it a more of a clarity, you know. That's the way I sort of feel about it. And then I guess it's very flat down to the low end.
67 is relatively flat, yes.
Oh, 67 is too. I was describing the V12 right there, but
V12 is completely flat.
Yeah, going down to the low end. Yeah. And then the 67 has a little bit of a low end boost, which can sound nice. And the high end, it's boosted sort of like, you know, gentle from 2K up to 10K, much more subtle. But to your point where you were talking about the BH and the vintage series, I think the BH stays sort of flattish, closer up to 20K, whereas the vintage series, like the V67, begins to dip down just a little bit above 10K. And that also gives mics what you described as that kind of, you know, warm, very top octave, is it rolls it off just slightly like vintage mics might do, you know? So that's a cool thing.
And what's actually very interesting is that a few years ago we have tons of, you know, clients asking what are the differences, and we kind of wanted to put everything in one graph, which is always, you know, hard to put, you know, all the mics in one graph but we didn't want to kind of put all the frequency charts because we already have frequency charts in one place on the website. So that's kind of, but we wanted to kind of, you know, describe even it's dark or it's bright or it's vintagey or it's modern, you know, like the opposites. And We created a graph which is basically from dark, then there's a neutral in a middle, and then there's bright. But and it's very, very interesting how, you know, whenever you have like 7 mics, and then you know line them up starting from darkest to the brightest. And that's, I think, the easiest way for people to kind of, you know, for example, if you have a female vocals very, very bright, very thin, then probably it's not a best idea to take, you know, the brightest mic you have. Maybe V11 or V47, which has way more darker notes in it.
Yeah,
it's a better design.
Are you recording your own music or other people's music in your studio, but you're having trouble figuring out how to get your mixes to sound great? Do they sound kind of weak or distant or lack punch and clarity? Well, I've got a gift to help you take your mixes from sounding like basement demos to sounding much closer to professional mixes. And it's my free course called Mix Master Bundle. This course will show you how to get pro-sounding mixes from your home studio with free and stock plugins in Pro Tools, and the best part is that these mixing techniques work for you in any DAW, whether you're on Logic, Cubase, Studio One, Reaper, anything you can think of. If you're ready now to make your best record ever, then go to mixmasterbundle.com to get started for free now, and you can find the clickable link in the show notes of this episode. I wish I had had a female singer in the video that I did. So we might have to do another one, you know, just do vocals, you know, just 7 mics on different vocals. Because that is the thing, that is the scariest part about engineering when you're recording somebody else, is feeling sometimes like you're on the spot as the engineer to choose the correct mic and set it up for the singer. Because once the singer starts singing, you know, it can feel like if you didn't choose the mic right, or if you didn't choose the right mic and you want to switch, it can often feel like, too late, buddy. You know, you had your chance before the singer was singing, and now you can't stop the show. So that's cool, you know, and to get that experience to listening to the different mics and getting a chance to hear them on different voices and start getting a feel for it is great. What mics have you heard people say? Let me ask you that question. Let's go through some instruments and just say, you know, what do you think would be the right JZ microphone for that instrument, or what have other people recommended? So for a female vocal, what mic do people tend to say, oh, loved that?
I've seen lots of good reviews for V47 for female vocals, because V47 is a bit darker mic, but it still has nice, you know, little high end, and it's still warm. It's kind of, I think, a perfect vintage mic for a female. But it depends. For example, if you have a, like, I don't want to tell like more trained voice, but more like, you know, voice with, you know, with the body, with the mids, with the highs, then I usually recommend Black Hole, because Black Hole is like even if it's on the brighter side, it's very generous. You know, it just, or not generous. The word would be, it's very like honest. It just sounds as your you know, voices. Yeah, and it's funny
again. It's funny that you describe it as on the brighter side, because really, when you look at the graph, it's like there's a teeny low end bump around 50 to 70, and then there's a small upper mid. Well, not even upper mid, just maybe upper mid, 2K to 5K, like presence. You know, what you think about as presence, like on a guitar amp. But really, it's just flat, and it goes, and it just stays flat way up into the highs. And I think it's also the detail of the BH1 that makes it sound like it's got highs.
Yes, the capsule, the response is way much different. Like, all right, like female vocals is one thing, but whenever we have like hip hop vocals or rap vocals, or, you know, any kind of application where there is lots of detail and lots of, you know, articulation. Like, for example, if you have a acoustic, like if you're finger picking acoustic guitar, then the BH series, it can, you know, take all the details from your fingers, and you want that. You don't want to smooth it out. You don't want it. You want to smooth out like strumming, maybe.
Right.
But finger picking, you want the detail.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, the other thing to remind the rock stars of is the Black Hole series, of course, has the switchable pickup pattern. I think the BH1 does. Maybe I can't remember if the BH2 also does or
No,
does
it's
not.
free. It's patterns are BH1 and BH1S.
Right. So that with the BH1 and 1S, you have a cardioid pattern, you've got omni, and you've got figure eight. And that gives you a whole nother level of tonality and usability. A figure eight, for example, we talk about this a lot on the podcast. Let's say you need to set up a mic on an instrument and they're sitting next to another instrument that you really don't want to hear in the mic. By using a figure eight, you can actually put that other instrument on the side of the microphone you're using, the BH, and it's going to do a really great job of rejecting the other instrument and only letting you hear the finger picking, for example. So that might be a really good choice for doing, a duet or doing some musicians in a circle, for example. Figure eights can also be cool to put two singers on either side of it, where they're both singing into the same mic. But Omni, talk a little bit about that. So one of the things that's fascinating about Omni mic pickup patterns is definitely thinking about them as in sort of an archival context. So thinking about like going to a performance hall and setting up an Omni microphone where you really do want to hear the room, that's the sound you want. But there's also the opportunity, like you're saying, when you think about getting really close to an instrument. So like, let's say you want to do finger pick guitar and you want to put the mic just an inch away from the fingers. If you do a cardioid microphone, then you get proximity effect, which boosts the low end and can sound great at times. Like here, I'll do it on my voice, see if you can hear it. So I'm getting close to the mic right now, and maybe you're getting a little bit more proximity effect. And if I back away from the mic, you might hear less of it. Of course, my mixing will be so good, you won't even notice the difference. But when you have an Omni capsule setting, you can get incredibly close to a sound without the bass boost. So I just wanted to remind the rock stars of that Omni can actually sound, it can have the characteristics of a cardioid. In other words, it can kind of reject other things just because you can get it so close to the sound source that the things that you don't want in the mic are, out of the picture, but without the bass boost. What about you? What are some thoughts you have, Andris, as far as Omni microphones and where the BH really comes in handy?
I think like my goal, like more like my perspective as a marketer, as a marketer in JZ Microphones company, is that I always seen like Black Hole series as like go-to mic, the most versatile. In my mind, it's the most versatile mic in the world because it does all the things well. But the difference between BH2 and BH1S, like BH2 is like fixed. It's just a cardioid without pad switch or anything. And it's, in this case, it's very affordable. For a home studio or any kind of level recording studio, it can be very affordable. And of course, when it comes to BH1S, which has pad switches, which has pattern switches, you can do more. But I think in a home setting, or more and more people are recording in like not a basement studios, but let's call them home studios.
Right.
I mean, Omni is there. If your drum room is very, very small, then there is no kind of, I think, point to put Omnis on on the overheads. But for example, when you have very nice, drum room with super high ceilings and very, very nice ambience, then it would be really nice to blend in, I don't know, sound from the ceiling and stuff like that.
Yeah, I actually have what we call a dead room. I actually like to refer to it as the phone booth in my studio because it's so good for taking phone calls. But it's essentially a dead room. It's a small room that is all 703 on all the walls. It's just totally, there's no reverb, no echo. And I love recording drums in there. I don't get to do it all the time because it's a bit of an intentional setup to do that for a session. But on one of the sessions I did it, and of course the ceiling is treated right above the drum kit. So the Omni, whether you're an Omni or not, doesn't matter so much because there's just it's not an echoey room, But what I did notice right away when I was using a pair of mics as overheads is I started out with mics. These were not actually, this wasn't the BH in this example, but it's the same idea. I had them in Omni thinking, oh, I had them in cardioid looking down at the drum set, but I felt like the cymbals were harsh when I was recording and I was getting frustrated. And then I thought, let me just go switch the mics into Omni. And I did that and the cymbals just went, oh my God, they sounded so much smoother. And I remember that with, I used to have a pair of Earthworks TC30Ks as well. And same thing, like it was Omni, so I couldn't use them on everything, but there was a smoothness to the cymbals that was really nice. And so I think that's a good reminder too of use cases for Omni mics. Like if you get down close to the drums and maybe you just have some drum treatment or a little cloud above the drums, you might find that Omni is, with the black hole is going to be a really great secret weapon for capturing a really smooth, natural drum sound above it and cymbals that don't sound harsh,
Yeah. I think you always need to experiment. I mean,
yeah,
sure, if you don't have like mic with the multiple patterns, then that's okay. But if you have, then you don't even know what you can get. It depends on the room. It depends on the guitar player. It depends on the cymbals. It depends on everything.
Yeah. Have you guys been tempted to make a stereo microphone?
We actually, it was not Jay-Z microphones, but we were related with the Violet design because the same factory basically made Violet microphones, but it was the other company that was like a distributor. Mm-hmm. And they had it was a Flamingo stereo, as I remember. There was a Flamingo series, which is like Flamingo series, like a high-endish mics with tubes. And there was a Flamingo stereo, which is like, it looks like two fists connected together. And, and you can like not switch them, but you can, adjust them. And it's
right. So like it's a big X, Y or a wider pattern.
It's kind of, it's actually a very interesting microphone. And I'm always remembering about this mic and thinking, I like stereo mics because, you need just one stand and it's very easy and it's actually way much cheaper to
build them and make them because it's less
it's one body. One body. Sure, it will be more expensive than just one mic with one capsule, but I think it's nice.
Yeah, they can be cool. I mean, it can be fun to have a single mic that's stereo that you can set up for a room mic. It's a lot easier. If you've got the switchable figure 8 patterns, that gives you a whole new sound too, and you can create an instant blum line, which can be a great way to record too. I remember there was a jazz album a CD I used to have years ago. I don't even remember who it was now, but it was a jazz quartet, and they just set up a blum line stereo mic in the middle, and they all just stood around it, and that was the one recording into one mic, and it sounded incredible.
Yeah, so, I think experimenting with mic placements and techniques is just a whole another thing. Well, I'm not a sound engineer, but I've created plenty of materials for Jay-Z microphones, and I've read tons and tons and tons of stuff about mic placements, and it's just interesting. For example, we were working with one producer from UK. His name is Sean Ganaki, and he's a friend of ours, and he's been testing our mics and making samples for us. Very, very kind person. And he was recording like acoustic guitar samples, but like with a spaced pair. And, I'm familiar with V67 or Black Hole, but when it's a pair, it just, it sounds like, totally different. It's, because it's a stereo, like it's so much like richer. And, it's the same mic, but just a different technique.
Well, I've been loving doing that. In fact, I've been using pairs of Jay-Z mics for acoustic guitars with artists that I'm producing. I think we were doing the V11 and I think it was the V67 or the V47. I usually just try whatever I just
you blended two mics, different mics.
Not even blending them. Same thing you said. So if the string and neck side of the guitar is brighter because it's the strings, then I might put the V11 on that side, looking towards the 12th fret. And then if the bridge side, where the strings go into the body of the guitar, and the pegs go in, and that's the bridge, that tends to sound darker and woodier on a guitar. And so then I'll put the brighter mic on that side, and then just pan them out a little bit. Because this was some stuff where doing an artist named Miranda Burry, who sings more traditional country stuff, and she sings, in this case it was just one acoustic guitar with one vocal, so it was very minimal. But getting that kind of stereo acoustic sound was so great because it made room in the middle for the voice, and it just moved the guitar to the outside of the center a little bit, and it sounded awesome, and it was very easy to get.
Very pleasant for ears, I think.
Yeah, it was very nice. Yeah, so I'll have to include some links to that, Rockstars, if that record is out, which it should be. I'll try and stick that in the show notes too, so that you can hear that. But yeah, I love having that combination of different mics, and of course, again, in the 7 mic shootout video that I did, we demonstrate what each mic sounds like on the acoustic in different places. OWC is your one-stop shop for flexible drive storage and connectivity solutions for your studio. The Mini Stack STX for your Mac Mini adds 2 additional drives over a universal SATA HDD SSD bay and an NVMe M.2 PCIe SSD, plus 3 additional Thunderbolt USB ports. The OWC Thunder Bay 4 chassis, built like a tank, gives you 4 hot-swappable 2.5-inch RAID configurable drive bays, plus an extra Thunderbolt 3 jack for daisy chaining up to 5 devices. Or check out the OWC Gemini Thunderbolt 3 dock with 2 RAID configurable drives and 7 ports of connectivity, including a front-side SD card reader, 1 gig Ethernet, 2 USB 3.2 ports, a dedicated display port, and an additional backward-compatible Thunderbolt port. Get your studio connected with the Mini Stack STX, Thunder Bay 4, and Gemini Thunderbolt 3 dock at macsales.com/rockstars. Use the custom link in our show notes because it's a great way for you to help support this podcast. So thanks, Rockstars. I am totally blown away with Isotope Ozone, Rockstars. I've been mastering a lot of my records recently, and Ozone makes it so easy for me to get a fantastic sound. The Mastering Assistant will help you get started by measuring your track and suggesting all the settings you need to get a professionally targeted result based on the genre and EQ curve of your choice. You can even reference a specific song if you want, using simple yet sophisticated modules like Clarity, Impact, Low-End Focus, Stabilizer, Imager, Exciter, and Spectral Shaping, along with powerful dynamic EQ, compression, and limiting. You simply adjust the settings to your own taste, and it sounds incredible. And don't get me started on Master Rebalance, which literally lets you reach into the mix and manipulate the vocals, bass, and drums at the mastering stage. My bandmates are pretty demanding of my mixes, but now when I send off the masters for approval, I get comments back like, "Holy shit, pristine, damn good mastering, crystal clear, dude, you're a wizard. Finally, I love my singing, and the drums and bass sound huge." Check out the newest Ozone, RX, and all the other great plugins at isotope.com and use the code ROCK10 to get 10% off. Hey, Rockstars, we're back now for the second half of the show, aka the Jam Session. My guest today is Andris Zemmers, joining us from Jay-Z Microphones. Andris, I forgot how to say, "Are you ready to jam" in Latvian?
Vai tu esi gatavs?
That's what I meant. That's what I was just going to say that. So talk to us a little bit about, I know that you guys have gotten some really great accolades and praise over there at Jay-Z Microphones for being very innovative as a company and as a microphone designer. Talk about the innovation that happens over at Jay-Z.
Yes, the thing that Joris Zarins, he was the founder. He kind of, the whole mission was innovation. And if you take a look at the microphone industry in general, there are almost 100 companies. And if you build a company around 2007, when the Jay-Z microphones was born, you have to kind of bring a lot to the table to kind of shine and bring something new and be maybe better than some of other companies. And from what we know, as I mentioned, engineers want clear, open sound with tons of detail. That's number one. Number two, they want the mic that's basically built like a tank, super durable and could last a lifetime easily. And the third thing is they want super low noise. Nobody wants the mic that's noisy. And these three things, they are they are fundamentals of basically any great mic. But it's a challenge to kind of craft them all together. And if you look, for example, of Jay-Z mics, that's where the innovation comes. Like our design and the whole, we make our microphone bodies, all the little stuff by ourselves here in Latvia. And this gives us the ability that the mic is almost undestroyable. I like to, joke, it's built like a tank. It's very, very, very strong. It's very durable. And the same with the low noise. Like how can you achieve that the mic is with a very low noise? And it's, most of our mics, they don't have transformers. They are basically very, very clean mics.
Yeah.
And the components are super high level. What do I mean by that? It's not just, again, it's not just a marketing term. I know the process, how they select the components, how they measure them. And only the best of the best, it's top 1% gets selected. And this gives the ability so that all the mics sounds superb. Usually whenever we send a mic to a producer, and he or she just, wow, it costs below $1,000. It sounds like $6,000 or $7,000. And that's the thing. We maxed out everything that we can, And last year we won some kind of European, I don't remember, I've never heard about this, but it's basically World Innovation Prize or something like that. I've never heard about that. And it was very interesting because it just tells and shows that people and organizations kind of appreciates the hard work.
Yeah, that's cool. And then hold on, we're going to do a little test. All right, rock stars, just listen quietly. Listen. Do you hear that noise, rock stars? That's not this microphone. That's the noise in your head because you've been listening too loudly in your studio. All right, so that was a good little scientific test there. Well, that's very cool. Now, you mentioned that these mics are affordable. They're priced great for a really great quality microphone that will last a long time in your studio and sounds incredibly hi-fi, But I know that you also want the rock stars to know about any special offers that you might have. So maybe we should give a shout out to that right now so that and then we'll mention it too and include it in the show notes as well. But Andris, what would you like them to know about?
Yes, well, many people know that Jay-Z microphones and other companies, they build and make premium stuff, but lots of engineers are kind of, well, I will go with that $300, $400, $500 dollar mic because it's more affordable and it will kind of get the job done. And I just want to suggest and kind of give a deal and try out the mics, the premium mics, and just to hear that difference. And that's crazy. Whenever you think well, that's just a price. Well, that's just it's not practical thing. Well, it is. It's just, I'm not an engineer. I'm just speaking what my clients keep sending me. Whenever we do campaigns and stuff like that, they keep sending me wow, this it changed my life. It changed my records. And for this, I want to kind of make a no-brainer deal, which is, I like to call it the most amazing deal ever, which is, the link is jzmicrophones.com/rockstar. And there you will find this deal. It's basically 50% off of any mic, plus I will give you as a bonus a free accessory, which is usually a shock mount or a handcrafted wooden box.
Wow.
And just try it out. And we also have this 30-day money back warranty, and it's not a joke. Like, if you don't like the mic and if your jaw doesn't drop, we will pick up for free. There's no hustle sending the mic back, because we will pick up for free.
Dude, that's so generous. That is fantastic, and what an awesome deal. So, Rockstars, just to reiterate that and make sure that that was clear, if you didn't quite hear how awesome that was, if you go to jzmic.com/rockstar, Jay-Z, just for you guys, is offering a 50% off deal. Plus, they're going to throw in a little something on the side. You'll see when you get there. So that's amazing. Thank you so much for doing that. And it's heartwarming to us too, because of course we are a lot of us are making records in home studios. A lot of us are trying to make records that sound as professional as possible, but we're also, self-funding our own recording. And it's, for many of us, it's a hobby. For many of us also, it's a profession. So, it's really, really helpful to be able to have access to high quality microphones like what you're making in a way that is both affordable and, gives us the ability to get a great sound in the studio. So thank you so much for that.
You're welcome. And my only comment is that, lots of engineers, they kind of can't afford like $6,000 mic, and that's okay. But I think our mics, they sound like $6,000 and sometimes even better. It depends. Microphones give you a variety, but they doesn't cost $7,000 or $6,000. It's like 10 times less. With this 50% off, it's 10 times less. It's
50% less. Well, at least from the Jay-Z mics.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. So the most amazing deal ever. The most amazing deal ever, Rockstars. Go get it. Okay, cool. We'll have a link to that in the show notes. We'll mention it again, and you will certainly hear from us in other places, reminding you of that. Let's keep moving forward, and we'll say thank you one more time, Andris. Let's keep moving forward and talk about, you interact with a lot of engineers and producers and clients, artists that are using Jay-Z microphones. I mean, let's get real here. Mick Jagger is in your list of Jay-Z microphone users. What are some of the things that you have learned? Is it fair to ask you some of the things that your clients have told you about? Do you have producers telling you, "Oh my God, I use the Jay-Z mic on the drums for this, on the guitars for this. They're so great on vocals here," that kind of thing?
Yes. I mean, I love talking to clients and sending them emails and questions, and they usually tell me lots of things that, I just honestly ask them, like, what do you think? Where are you using this mic? Where does it shine for you?
Yeah. So
they're telling me this.
Tell us. So, let's start with drums. Does anything come to mind for you? Any hot tips for drums that you've heard?
Yes. Well, first of all, when it comes to drums, let's start with the overheads, like the Amethysts or V67s. They shine on overheads, and when all the people are asking, well, what's the difference between Amethyst and the V67? Actually, it's basically the same capsule. When you when you open the mic, it's the same capsule, but the housing of the grill, like the shape of the grill, is so much smaller for the Amethyst. That's why it kind of gives a bit like a tighter sound.
They sound different to me. Definitely different. Yeah. Like when I hear them on my voice, it's like they each sound unique, which is amazing that those just things like capsules or like the housing makes a difference like that.
Yeah, but I think that for my ear, Amethyst sound better, and I'm also kind of very practical person, and they come with the like a special kind of shock mount, and it's so easy to hang on the overheads, and it's very, very easy to use. I personally think that V67s are a bit harder to use, but we now have this vintage shock mount, which you can get with this Rockstar deals. You are getting it for free, but it costs like $100 plus dollars. But it kind of saves the microphone. That's number one. Like V67 or the Amethyst on the overheads. Then other application is lots of time I've heard it V47 on outside kick. I never thought about it, but lots of engineers are saying, like the engineers who are kind of using the outside kick mics, they love it on. It kind of gets the detail and crispiness, like the thing that you want from your kick. You want like the kick, the bass, but you also want that a bit of high frequencies from the outside kick. And V47, it kind of gives it to you in very, very pleasant way. Again, this is not me speaking. I've read lots of things that engineers, Grammy level engineers, send me.
Yeah. The
next thing is V11 are like three things for V11. One is definitely room sound, if you like dark room sound, but I love them on toms, floor tom, that the thing that you mentioned. But I think it shines on a snare.
Nice. What's cool is in the 7 mic shootout, I'm just going to keep referencing my YouTube video, Rockstars. In that one, we try each mic and we hear it over the drums, we hear it in front of the kick, we hear it on the snare. So you kind of get that sense of, oh, what would it sound like up close? And the V11 sounded great on the snare. I remember that. I remember the Amethyst also sounding really great on drums as well.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, V11 is very interesting beast, so to speak. It's usually, it's the cheapest mic on our arsenal, but it's not that the quality is different. But actually the capsule is almost the same as it's in Black Hole series. It's cheaper only because the build is so much simpler. It doesn't have any, holes and details in it. That's why it's cheaper. It's not that the quality is different.
Nice. You're just like passing on the savings to you, rock stars. Very cool. Now, one thing that I didn't mention, I might as well mention it because I'm talking through it right now, is this wonderful pop filter that you guys make or have made. I don't know if that's available right now, but the pop filter from Jay-Z is really fantastic as well. Is that fair to bring that up, or is that on? Are you guys? It says sold out at the moment because it was so popular.
Yeah, the pop filters are also a very interesting beast. I mean, it's not the cheapest pop filter on the industry, but it's very, it's very unique. You don't see any other pop filter. First of all, it's a wire mesh pop filter. It's not like classic nylon pop filter.
I disagree with you that it's not the cheapest. So because if you get the nylon one, or if you get, there's another one that I've had that was very flimsy. It was metal, but it would break if you just grabbed it. In fact, we had to put a sticker on it telling an artist, don't grab it. But with the Jay-Z pop filter, it's so tough that it's not going to get broken in your studio. So you're not going to have to buy it 3 times. You just buy it once and it lasts you, which is great.
And also like a little bonus that we mentioned, that we were talking like 2 years ago during the COVID, was it's virus free. Why? Because it's metal. You just put it in the sink, spray it with the water, and it's clean. You can't do that with a nylon one because it will be destroyed.
Well, there you go. There you have it. Well, so let's see here. So what was the next one we want to talk about? We were talking about V11 drums on the kick, the V47 on the kick, V11 on the room mics, floor toms and snare, the Amethyst and the V67 as overhead mics. What are some other interesting things? Now, I remember we had Dana Nielsen on the podcast, and he was talking about using Jay-Z microphones out in the field on some of his recordings as well. Have you heard some other use cases where people have taken Jay-Z's microphones into strange locations, unusual places to record?
There is one guy, and he's from Japan, and he has all of our mics and hundreds of other mics, and he's now recording on very remote location. And I'm just following him on Facebook, and I'm just seeing that he's on the road recording stuff. But I haven't heard from him because he haven't reached out yet. But I know that he's a part of our community, and he shares the pictures, and these stories are very, very interesting.
Nice. Okay, cool. So now what about bass amps and bass guitars? Have you had anybody say what their favorite Jay-Z microphone is for upright bass?
I think usually it's 47 or 67 from what I heard.
Sort of because you want to add that a little bit of the clarity to the sound when the bass itself has already sort of got the built-in boom.
Yes, I think 67 might be a bit too bright for upright bass, but it depends. It's 47, 67. It's usually whenever we have plenty of artists and producers doing more like classical music, and on the wood instruments, it's usually 47, 67. It depends. Yeah, it depends on. Well, there is Mark Orselli, and he has like all our mics. And he's usually sending me pictures, and he's using, he's a very, very pro level engineer. And he can use like, black holes on interesting sources because he can listen and then decide, which is the mic in that day, during this moon phase or whatever. But that just next level. It's,
Yeah, Mark's great. He's been a guest on the show and a lot of fun. I think last time I was here, we started out our podcast talking about the finer points of choosing and making the right espresso.
Oh.
So just like choosing your mics, you really want to you want to make sure that you've got just the right flavor for it. So with the black hole mics, for example, is that one that you find people who want to record classical or record an ensemble on a stage, they might use the black hole?
Yeah, black hole, whenever I hear like modern vocals or modern something that's, brighter or maybe flatter, I always mention like black holes. But usually whenever it's a bigger studio and they're looking for more mics, like a bigger arsenal, they're shopping for a bigger arsenal, I usually, recommend black holes because they're so versatile. Because if you have V67 or any kind of vintage mic, and it might be the case that you're only using it on vocals because, you have this client. But black hole is whenever you need like little percussions, or you need a backing vocals, or you need like something with, room sound that you've never done, or you have interesting amp coming in. And I think black hole is the first mic that's, it's a safe bet on pretty much everything.
Adam Audio introduces the all-new A-Series line of monitors, featuring the XART accelerated ribbon tweeter design, built-in DSP-based room correction, and speaker voicings to allow you to customize your Adam Audio monitors to your control room. The A-Series will rock in any studio. Small studio spaces or immersive multi-speaker configurations are perfect for the A4V or the new A7V, the next generation of the incredibly popular A7X. Mid-size rooms and narrow spaces will love the low profile of the A44H, expanding on the A7V sound, or the A77H, a true three-way midfield monitor delivering rich, spacious sound. And bigger studios will love the A8H, a three-way speaker and the pinnacle of the A-Series that delivers extremely accurate sound required for critical listening environments. Get the Adam Audio monitors and subwoofers that are right for your studio with an extended 5-year warranty at adamaudio.com. What do songwriters, music producers, DJs, EDM, TV, and film composers all have in common? They all need incredibly cool sounds that instantly transport the music to the style that they want. This is why Native Instruments is your ultimate toolkit with a massive library of sounds. Whether you want to create hip-hop, indie pop, classic rock, meditation music, pumping dance floor beats, or full orchestral arrangements, Native Instruments' Complete Bundle offers you everything you need, from drums, loops, and beats to wild synths, ultra-realistic strings, and vintage electric bass, guitars, and keys. The list goes on and on. I personally love recording real bands in my studio and adding cool drum samples, synths, and futuristic keys from Battery, Contact, Massive X, Guitar Rig, and Hybrid keys, for example. Plus, it's super fun to create a string section for a rock band. Come on, go get Complete Start for free today with a bundle of 2,000 sounds and 6 gigs of samples over at nativeinstruments.com and use the code ROCK10 to get 10% off. Some restrictions apply. Okay, cool. Now, there is one microphone that we haven't talked about much yet, which is the BB29. So give us an introduction to that. You guys were trying to do something a little different with that microphone, and it has a very different voicing.
Yes, BB29, it's a very interesting mic. It's primary, I think. And it's kind of supposed to be primary a vocal mic. And it's the only mic with a built-in transformer, meaning it colorates the sound.
Interesting.
It's actually a black hole microphone. If you open it up, it's a black hole mic with a transformer.
Similar shape and body. It's like slightly similar look.
Yeah. And what the transformer does, it kind of adds a bit of high frequencies around 8-ish K, and whenever you need something that kind of cuts through the mix, but it's not harsh, then that's the mic. And those who know and those who have used Blueberry microphone, it's the first big huge success for Blue back in the day. Like BB29 is kind of inspired by that, because the Blueberry was also a transformer mic.
Okay, cool. And looking at the frequency graph, like you said, there's a little bit of a bump. Well, there's a gentle rise from 2.5K up, and then there's a little bit of a bump at the 6 to 7, 8K, and then another bump about 13K or something like that. So, and then it rolls off, going up to 20. So it does have that sort of upper presence. But what really struck me was how, rather than having a low end bump, it has a little bit of a boost around 500 hertz. And I thought that was really
very
interesting. Yeah, because it's like you're adding clarity so that you can hear the top end of a particular sound, like a vocal or whatever the lead instrument is. But then you're also hearing it in that tonal body. You're not trying to boost lots of low end. You're just trying to hear it up in that place that is going to hopefully help cut through a mix.
Yeah, it's very interesting. These 500 hertz is for some engineers, they were very happy about it. They on the snare, or I remember it was a Ramesh Dorangoda from UK, also very successful engineer, and he's a big fan of Jay-Z, and he loves actually BB29 on I think on a snare, because he kind of likes this 500 hertz on a snare. This is what I remember.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I find myself, it's often common to boost like 250 on a snare, but then that 500 would be the first octave above that, which gives a little bit more, bite and maybe clarity to it too. And then I guess another octave from there would be 1K. So there you go, which is the easiest frequency of all to hear.
Yeah.
Just like the most amazing deal ever. It's the easiest frequency to hear ever. Okay, cool. So the BB29, and I know you guys, when you were designing this microphone and marketing it, you were talking about how it was intended to be the one that you might use on the instrument that you want to be able to cut through the mix, as opposed to something that you want to blend into the background. So a vocal, but maybe even an instrument, like an acoustic instrument, or, again, it might sound great on an electric guitar. And once again, that's one of the mics that we shot out in the 7 mic video. So if you want to hear that on an acoustic or an electric or a vocal, it's all there, Rockstars. We even did all 7 mics just in front of a bass cabinet, so you can hear how they all sound different there. And it's really remarkable. It's very cool to hear those differences. All right, so let's see. Let's keep going. Any other particular instruments? Have you gotten feedback from your users about their favorite vocal mics, for example?
Definitely the one that keeps coming to emails and to all the messengers and community is the 67. And I like to say that it's perfectly set between bright and warm, because I think classical vintage mic is V47. It's soft, it's smooth, it has everything you want in a vintage mic. V67 is more like a modernish kind of more industry. I call it radio ready vocals. And what I keep hearing from engineers is that it has the ability to kind of glue things or smooth out things together. And let's say it's cymbals or like overheads, it kind of glues the whole drum set together. Or if it's louder like rock or pop rock vocals, it's very forgiving. It sounds good on pretty much every human being. And especially when it comes to more like not harsher music, but everything that's not classical. Let's say whenever you have a gain or push or pressure, whenever it's a drum set or it's a male voice, V67 it's like a magic wand for that. And I've told it publicly, like V67 is by far the top selling mic from our arsenal, like by far.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you talk about the drums and the cymbals again. So I other videos that I've done, there's one called Full Band Studio Setup for Tracking Session, where it's literally legit what I used for a tracking session. And I think we were using the V67 as the overhead on that one. And then I did another one called 67 V11 review in the studio. And I have a tendency to write a goofy song at the end of my review videos. So
I love those songs.
Yeah, thank you. So if you go watch that video, Rockstars, then you get to the end and you realize that, these all go together as a tune. And I think we used the 67 as the overhead on the drums and the V11 out in front of the kick, and that became the drum sound for that one too. So and they really do sound great. So that's cool. And then there's another one called How to Use a Mono Mic for a Killer Drum Sound, and that one highlights the Jay-Z V11 as that center mic. And it was done, I think I did it close to Halloween, or the session was Halloween. That's why it looks all drippy and bloody on the thumbnail. Because, you got to have fun while you're doing this stuff. All right, cool. So let's see. What questions have I not asked you yet? What comes to mind for you? What now with your band, Neon Saturdays, there's a lot of, I think it's a combination. I think I hear songs that use real drums and guitars, but I think you're also using some, computer generated sounds and guitars, but there's always a vocal on there. So have you found particular vocal mics that are your favorites that you tend to use making your own records?
Yes, when I'm going to professional studio, I love to take my V67 with me, but the whole lots of new songs that we released, it was during COVID, and in my apartment here I only had Black Hole, and that's crazy. It's my room, but at the moment where I'm sitting, it's not very good. It's not treated at all. But with the Black Hole, even in this room, I achieved very good sound. But yeah, you mentioned the vocals. I'm a very big believer of the melody. I'm a melodic person, and as a songwriter, I kind of think that that's the most important part of the song is the melody. I'm not a lyrics person. My bandmate, he's a lyrics person, and he's usually, arguing with me about lyrics and stuff like that. But I love music when the melody is in front of everything, and especially if it's recorded with a great microphone.
Yeah. So speaking of some of your songs in there, there's a song called "Get Up" that you've done, and it's got a great big gang vocal sound that sounds awesome. So talk a little bit about that. Like, how were some of the ways that you recorded the vocals on that one? What did you do different between the lead vocal and getting this big kind of chorus gang sound where you hear all these voices in there?
Yes, we recorded this in several different locations, but one of the location was rehearsal studio, and all the gang vocals, all the not the most important stuff, so to speak, was recorded in our rehearsal room. But I don't remember which mic it was, but it was basically what we did is we set up. I remember that it was a Jay-Z mic. We just set up the mic in not a corner, but basically in the middle, and we recorded the rehearsals with this one mic. And whatever we had an idea, well, let's do a gang vocals, and then we just recorded with this one mic. But as this was just one mic, we needed to double it, and
yeah,
maybe 10 times. We are three guys that are singing in this chorus thing, and we needed to double it like 10 times. And then the producer, he just decided what to do after that.
That's great. And then do you think you were using that mic maybe an Omni, or was it the cardioid version?
It was a cardio, but it was a very big room with very high ceilings. We were very, very lucky to kind of get this rehearsal room, and it sounded very, very good and very woody, so to speak. It was lots of wood in it.
I've had great luck recording bands in rehearsal rooms. I remember taking a band in LA, the Living Things, when we were in there doing demos, and we had booked out a room, and it was one of these rooms that was just completely treated in carpet. It was sort of, they had built the room to just be indestructible. If you're going to do a rehearsal space, you really don't want bands destroying the space. And we were doing 4-track recordings in there. And then we got back to the studio and was like, damn, these sound great. So, rock stars, if you've got a small home studio and you're not sure what to do, maybe just put carpet everywhere. I know that's not, I think the high-end designers they go like, what are you talking about? You're going to kill all your highs. But I mean, that can really sound great to do that too. But you do have to treat the lows in a small space. You just put over stuffed couches in the corners and you're good to go. Okay, let me see here. What was I going to ask you about that? So the vocal thing, doing the gangs, shoot, I forgot. I had some follow-up question to that, but let me just pivot to another one right now. So, I know what I wanted to ask. There are other songs. Well, before I even ask this, I'll say this, Rockstars, we have a playlist of Andris's music in the show notes. So make sure you just click through and you can go listen to these recordings that he's doing. But he's also added a whole bunch of other records by other artists. So I wanted to ask you about that. Did you include songs in the playlist that are artists that are also using Jay-Z mics in the studio?
I didn't include these because they are very, very different songs, and I know the albums, but I don't particularly know the songs, to be honest. Usually engineers are sending me, like, for example, today I was speaking with his name is Matt Clifford. He's an engineer for Rolling Stones. And I know that they used the BB-29, for example, for the whole album for vocal overdubs. So I know that now, but I don't know, in which particular song it's like the lead mic, so to speak.
Right. Yeah. It'd be unfair to ask that. It'd be unfair to ask me exactly which microphone I used on exactly which session. But anyway, there are some other artists in there, rock stars, that I'm guessing are producers and or artists that you guys have, that have used Jay-Z mics, and maybe they're using them on the records too. But one thing that I did want to mention is I think you sent over some Neon Saturdays that are in English. And then I went and found that you're, of course, singing in Latvian as well. So I included those in the playlist too, because they sound cool. So Rockstars, if you want to hear what Latvian pop songs sound like, go check that out because they're going to be in the playlist too. Well, what are you excited about doing next in the studio yourself? You know, what do you want to record? And what are some ways that you have not used a Jay-Z microphone yet that you're thinking you want to try out?
The idea that comes to mind is, you know, we've been recording lots of like a classical rock band stuff, lots of songs like a classical rock band. And then maybe for the last couple of years, we recorded more like a classical pop rock band, meaning the song didn't see a recording studio except vocals. And we just tried it out. And in Latvia, with our songs, it worked very, very good. I'm not the big fan of this. I love like big drum room, big drum sound. I love this. And but you know, it's not an easy thing to do, especially when it's a, you know, pandemic and stuff like that, unfortunately. But what I would like to do, I would like to actually experiment with live instruments more. Meaning, whenever I'm going in a studio with acoustic guitar or a grand piano, I would love to not just, you know, set the mics in their places and, you know, get the desired outcome, but more like what, you know, what you, Lidge, are talking about, what many of the engineers are talking about, experimenting. Maybe find something more interesting. Maybe experiment with the patterns. This is what I would like to do. You know, and maybe something interesting comes out of that. Because what I'm a bit like tired of is this, you know, this box, like music industry box. And there isn't box. Like the box is in our minds. And for many, many years, I've tried to kind of, you know, check that box or reach that box or, you know, live in that box. But when you do it, when you kind of have your semi-success or success, even on a national level, you're like, well, I don't need that box anymore. I would like to do the things like, you know, how my ear hears it.
Do you ever feel like the time that you've spent watching YouTube videos, trying out mix tricks, and tweaking version after version of your mixes has gotten you nowhere? Have you been looking for a simple, straightforward, step-by-step process for creating a pro mix that won't take you years to learn? What if you could have a Grammy-winning mix engineer who understood all your mixing struggles and could coach you through them? If you struggle with any of these questions, then the Ultimate Mixing Masterclass is just for you. Now you can discover the proven step-by-step mix system from Grammy-winning mixer Craig Alvin for consistently creating a pro-quality mix from your home studio that will sound amazing everywhere. Listen to this quote from one of our students, David. Quote, "Absolutely the most informative and helpful block of information and mentoring on the mix process that I've ever been a part of. That was like sitting behind a mix engineer for years, watching and picking up tips along the way, but condensed into a 6 to 7 hour session." Close quote. Look, I'm so confident that this will take your mixes to the next level that if you can't get a killer mix within 30 days, I'll give you a full refund, no questions asked. So if you're ready to take your mixes to Grammy-winning quality, then go to ultimatemixingmasterclass.com and start now by checking out the free preview of the ultimate snare mixing trick. And I'll see you at the front row table of the Grammys. Cheers. Well, something that I say a lot on the podcast, and I believe strongly in, is we're working in the computer to create sounds. So we have things like plugins that we can use to manipulate sounds and take something that we've recorded and try and make it into something new or different. We have software synthesizers that can create an incredible array of sounds. But I think one of the things that we need to be reminded of all the time is something as simple as a microphone can create an enormous amount of sounds. You know, it's like a microphone and the gain of a preamp and using it in different ways in different spaces can give you a huge color palette of sounds that you can create with and use on a record. And the challenge, the benefit and the challenge of doing it that way is it really does rely on you as the creative. It relies on you as the producer, as the engineer, to be really listening and really being careful about how you do stuff. So here's an example. When you're doing vocals, rock stars, set up your microphone, sing the lead vocal the way you would normally sing it. That's fine. But then as soon as you start adding more vocals, step back from the mic. Leave the mic right where it is. When you go to do the double, don't be in the exact same place that you sang the lead vocal. Try new things like step back from the microphone a foot and notice how that sounds a little different and how you can blend the voices very differently that way. Turn your head and sing at a 90-degree angle to the mic and notice how that blends the harmonies and things very differently. And all of a sudden you've got sounds that aren't competing with each other. If you go do a tambourine track, set up your mic for the tambourine and walk all the way across the room and hit the tambourine, and see how that sounds and just turn up the gain. It really can sound amazing. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to do a piano track and then we go, oh, wait a minute, that vocal mic that's across the room, the piano sounds great through that. So don't set up a piano mic, just leave the mic where it was across the room and turn up the gain really hot and play your piano overdub that way, especially if you're doing like individual lines or something. And it really starts to create some really cool sonic landscapes for the sound, and you can put a track together and produce it where you get a real sense of space to things. Right now we're doing this podcast interview over the internet, but I'm also recording my voice on this Sound Devices Mix Pre 10, which is a battery-powered portable recording device. And I really encourage you to get out there with your microphone and a portable studio, something really simple, and experiment with recording in different spaces. I mean, take your JZ, V67 microphone and go set it up in a giant concrete stairwell and record your next guitar, acoustic guitar part in there. And you'll be amazed at how incredible that sounds, What are some places that come to mind for you? What's it like where you are in Latvia? If you were going to go out of your place right now and go pick some really interesting spaces to record in, what do you think of, Andris?
Oh, I'm in a very good place actually, because I live in near forest where one of the main rivers flows, and there is like big valley and lots of caves, like big caves.
Wow,
and
echoey caves.
Yeah, very echoey. And I will start with very near my apartment. There is a small river, a bit of hills, a bit of forest, and it's my favorite place to be when during spring, because it's so alive, and I would love to go there and record a few pieces of acoustic guitar, with the birds and all the water in the background. But then definitely in a cave, because it's I don't know how it sounds, because each cave is different.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the cool part about recording like that is, if you can just bring a microphone and a stand, you're good to go. Slightly more challenging is, okay, what are you going to bring that's an interface or something like that to record into? This Mix Pre that I have is battery powered and portable, so it's pretty great. Tascam makes portable recorders that can work really well for that. I'm trying to remember, I think even Dana, when he was on the show talking about recording out in the desert, I think it was something like that. I think maybe they were using battery powered portable stuff. If you find an interface that's got batteries, you could even bring that with a laptop, and now you've got you can have Pro Tools running, I think, as long as it'll open without the internet out there. I can't remember which ones will open or won't open now, but I'm sure that's doable. But it could be a really cool thing to do. And even fun stuff that comes to mind for me is, I remember there was a video somebody did where I can't remember if they did it with drums or it was acoustic and vocal, and they were singing this one song, and then they would set up a video, and they would sing the song in a bunch of different locations, and then they just cut. The verse was in a small room, and they sing the song, and then it goes to the chorus, and now all of a sudden it's the same, but they're in a big echoey stairwell space, and so like the reverb is natural, and it made the chorus jump out and stuff like that. That could be a really fun way to build a track, just taking your one JZ mic with you to these different spaces and doing your vocals in different parts. But that stuff's really fun. So now what about you for your band, Andris, you guys want to do more of a real band record next, do you think, with drums and guitars, and leave the computer at home for a minute?
Yeah, it's always like, I love computer. I love producing. I have this little home studio set up, and I love, all the stuff, that the plugins and samples and sampling and, everything that you can do with a MIDI keyboard. I love that, but I think it's very important to combine it with, the natural sources of sound, like, huge drums or whatever your genre is. But I think that's, we can always take like drum samples and stuff like that. But I think there is this human error whenever you're recording. And the human error is like not only the drummer, but the human error is also the engineer, the mics, the air, the stuff and the space between the drummer and the microphone. And I think there is room for magic to happen. But whenever it's like 100% in the box, yeah, it's good. It sounds great. I love how computer can sound and all the samples, but it just a bit too unnatural for me. And I just want more like raw stuff at the moment. But it changes because we are in Latvia. It's a bit like the music industry is a bit different in here. And like last couple of singles we recorded, like basically only vocals were recorded with the mics, and it was good. It was good, but I think nowadays you can experiment with whatever you want, and that there are basically no rules at the moment, I think. In the industry.
It's an interesting thing when you think about the computer tools that people use, and everybody has access to the same plugins and the same DAW and the same synthesizers. And sure, you can get quite a variety of sounds out of it with samples, but on a certain level, it is also a limited palette sometimes, where you might create a sound, but somebody else can create that same sound. That's one of the beauties of using microphones and original spaces, is you can create something that nobody else can create. You can create something that is really, really unique. And if you really want to stand out with your music, don't try and copy what everybody else is doing. Okay, I'll take that back a little bit. Sure, copy what people are doing so that you can study and learn. But if you really want to do something that is unique and that stands out, then rather than trying to do what's already being done, do something that's new and create a new sound of your own. And there's no better way to do that than with a microphone. There, mic drop right there. All right, so let me see if I got a couple more questions for you, Andris, and then we can close out here. What for you is are some of the most common mistakes that people use or make when they're using JZ mics? What are some things that you hear people trying to understand that you'd like to explain to them?
I think the biggest mistake, but it's not only with the JZ mics, it's in general with the JZ mics, is that you read a review or you watch a review or your friend recommends a mic, and then you have like these super high expectations and like, yeah, this will be a game changer, and then you order it or try it and it's like, meh, it's not for me. Well, of course, because it's I usually whenever we have a big review coming or a big producer kind of trying out our mics, I never send one mic. Like I usually send 2 or 3, and I will never know which will be the mic that the producer will take, and that's okay, because every voice is different, Every room is different. And what's interesting, I've been working with producers from all around the world, and producers in Europe tend to choose different mics than producers in US. And that's interesting. Why? I don't know. Probably because of language, how the language sounds.
Wow, that is interesting.
And I've it's very interesting because I've seen that in Europe, vintage 67 is way more popular, but in US, people tend to like black hole mics.
Interesting. Oh, right, because you were talking about the hip hop stuff and that, fast articulation of lyric.
I think, well, and also I think we have to keep in mind the language. Like in US, pretty much like the language it's all like, if you are talking about English, it's kind of the same, like for my ears. But in Europe, every country has different language. And for example, in Italy or in Germany, like these languages might be harsh. Or for example, from Eastern Europe or like Poland, like Latvia also, we have very harsh language. And that's why bright mic for us, it's like a nightmare. That's why, for example, for us, actually, it's interesting. Like V11 works very, very good. Well, the same classic Neumann U87 works very good for like harsher vocals because we have these T's, Z's, S, very, very harsh. Like
different. The voice has accentuates different frequencies, and so therefore you want a mic that maybe does the opposite of that a little bit.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I keep seeing people make. And for example, we have this again. It's not a plug, but it's more like a mention. We have this 30-day money back warranty, and it's not like, well, if the mic will be broken, then send it back. It's more like, well, try 2 mics. We will take them for free. Take back from you for free. It's like, wow, you have nothing to lose. And and there are people. They are very. There are some engineers that really buy 3 mics and they immediately say, I will return 2 of them. And I'm like, okay. But my goal as a marketer and as a part of the Jay-Z family, my goal is that you make the best decision possible. And you can't, like, lots of people are telling that, well, if I can't hear the microphone, if I can't test it, then I won't buy it. I understand. I totally understand. That's why we have this money back warranty. Try them out. You have nothing. You're like 100%, and we will pick up everything for free. It's just, hassle free.
That really is the most amazing deal ever.
Yeah, and because it's very hard to order the microphone and without any tests and just trusting the reviews, because what good producers, or like, for example, what Lidge is recording, it works for Lidge. It records for many applications, but every acoustic guitar is different. Like, for example, one day I have my bandmate, and he also has a small home studio, and he has a black hole mic, and he's sending me a voice message like, dude, I need something very, very bright because black hole is so dark and not very good mic on acoustic guitar. And I'm like, send me a record, like send me the proof. And I'm listening and I'm like, dude, you don't know how to record, because this acoustic guitar sounds like, I don't know, you're maybe putting a sweater on or a towel on the mic, because black hole is very, like, when it comes to acoustic guitar, it's the mic and it's very, very bright mic. What did you send me? It's maybe 10-year-old strings or something like that. It's not Mike's fault.
Yeah, well, you really have to, you have to match the mic to the instrument, and what an amazing opportunity to be able to, take a chance on choosing the mic that you think you're going to like, and then knowing that if it's not the right one, you can probably get the right one. Now, in all fairness, Rockstars, I think you're probably going to love the one you get, whichever one you pick, because I have yet to hear one that I didn't think sounded great. So that's very cool. Now, I do have a question for you. And we'll give a shout out. We'll remind one more time. We'll just keep mentioning it. Rockstars. Follow the link in the show notes. It'll take you to jzmike.com/rockstar, and that'll take you to the most amazing deal ever. So you can go check out one of the Jay-Z mics. Now, have you guys thought about creating dynamic mics? And for example, would there ever be a drum mic kit in the future?
we actually have this. The name is HH1, which is like handheld microphone, and the name is HH1, and it is a dynamic mic, but there's lots of things to do to kind of make it the whole drum kit. The whole set.
Yeah.
And at the moment, we are more like concentrated on as we are. I like to think that we are more like a studio microphone company.
Yeah.
Because dynamic mics is just a whole another game, and
they tend to be stage. Most people think of dynamics as stage, even though we use dynamics all the time in the studio too.
Of course, and for example, like the HH1 that we have, it has very kind of rich low bottom, and it's very interesting to try out on a toms. Because it kind of, I've heard very, very good things about it. I've never tried it on myself on the toms, but I've heard good things from engineers. But what we are doing now is we are actually launching very, very soon. Whenever we will have it, we will definitely send one pair to you, Lidge, is a small diaphragm pencil.
Oh, great, great. Yeah, we didn't even talk about that yet.
Yeah, this is whole another game, but I really like to wait when they will be ready. They are ready, but we are packaging them now, and we will definitely start by sending to one pair to you. And
great, thank you.
We'll see, yeah, because small diaphragm is a different kind of game.
This podcast is proud to present Recording Studio Rockstars Academy. Are you ready to take your recording, mixing, and mastering to the next level and make your best record ever? Then visit the Academy to find the course that's right for you. Want to record killer drums in your home studio? Then check out Rockstars of Drums to learn how to record, edit, and mix pro-sounding drums with a professional Nashville session drummer in a Grammy-winning studio. Or if you're ready to start mastering your own records at home, then check out Rockstars of Mastering, where I walk you through exactly how I master my own records using nothing but plugins. Plus, I take you into a world-class mastering studio, Sterling Sound, to meet with Ryan Smith and hear how he professionally mastered my record, Skadoosh, for release to streaming platforms. That's the music you hear on this podcast, Rockstars. And if mixing is your focus, then check out my free mixing course, Mix Master Bundle, where I show you how to mix using stock and free plugins in Pro Tools. Plus, you get a look at how I recorded everything in my studio and multi-track downloads for you to practice mixing and even upload to your website if you want. Are you ready to make your best record ever? Then go to recordingstudiorockstars.com/academy to get started now. Yeah, I'm sure you guys have all kinds of amazing secret one-off microphones in the laboratory there. We're like, man, I went to the Jay-Z labs and they had this incredible, ambisonic mic they built, but nobody knows about it yet. Very cool. So now, as we pivot away from dynamic, answer this question: what is a condenser mic, and why do we need to have phantom power? If that's an okay question to ask you, if that's not too technical.
It's a bit too technical to answer it in English, but we need a phantom power because the mic is like to the capsule to work, to kind of generate some kind of sound, so you can get these magnetic fields.
Yeah,
you need some kind of power.
Because there's two diaphragms in a mic, right? And they vibrate against each other or something.
Yeah, and then there's some kind of pressure and something like that. But I'm not an engineer in this.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. But I guess that with my limited understanding to be aware of Rockstars is the reason you need phantom power for condenser mics is because that diaphragm that is coated with gold allows the electrons to be charged on the diaphragm, and then there's like a plate, or there's two diaphragms with a plate maybe in the middle or something like that. But that difference generates the current, or generates the voltage by vibrating with the difference in plus and minus on those two diaphragms or whatever. And without the phantom, then they don't have the power to actually create that differential. All right, well, let's go to our closing questions. Andris. I think we can just go straight to our final one here, and we can say, this is hypothetical, and I like to ask all my guests. And the question is this. We're going to take the Wayback Studio machine. And as a musician, as an artist, as somebody who's working closely with a wonderful microphone company, you get to go back in time and find yourself and say, listen, young Andris, I've come back in time to give you this one bit of advice. Here's the single most important thing you need to know to be a rock star of the studio yourself one day. If you could go back in time, Andris, and talk to yourself, what advice would you give yourself?
As a singer, I saw myself in a band. I see myself more as a singer and a songwriter, and I would recommend. I would say to myself, like, be more crazy with the songwriting. Just be more crazy, because songwriting is art itself, and you don't want to live in any box when it comes to songwriting, because I believe when it comes to songwriting, I believe that quantity is the quality. Meaning, like, I've usually write like 100 songs in a summer, like in 3 months, like basically every day. The goal is one song, but sometimes these are 2 or 3 songs. But the goal is to write whatever bad songs or whatever songs, and then from out of these 100 songs, interestingly, 7 to maybe 10 good ideas come out, and only 1 or 2 are more like singles or like hits for me. And be more crazy, because otherwise you will copy yourself and you will copy others, and it's not interesting.
Yeah, it's fascinating. That's such a good reminder, and the point of saying, you get this one shot at creating, and if you're going to write songs, you want to do something that feels like it's you and not like you're just a copycat of, you don't want to feel like you're a clone of the rest of the world. So that's cool to hear you give that encouragement too. Because I think we all struggle with that on certain levels. We think about, like, we compare ourselves to other people, other songs, other records. And, ultimately the best thing we have to give is 100% of ourselves, right?
Yes. And I think the same is with producing, but with songwriting, like, the biggest finding for me was in the past, whenever I had the melody, I heard like, well, that's the main melody. That's the lead vocal melody. Cool. Like, that's like saved in my, in my brain. Like, that's finished. But no, several years ago, I was writing songs and I was like pushing myself, like, okay, that's the main melody, but let's keep in mind that that's backing vocals, or let's delete this melody. Let's try to come up with not a better, but different melody. And I was pushing myself, jamming with myself in a basically bedroom. And then, like, after 2 or 3 hours, when I was like, I hate it. Like, I hate it now. Then somehow my brain shut down and I was able to create a new melody, which was totally different. And I remember I was calling my bandmates and like singing this melody, because that became like far better melody. Like, you can't even put it in, one universe. But I would never be able to achieve this, like, or write this melody, if I would not kind of be crazy about it. Like, push myself out of the limits. Like, maybe imagine yourself, I don't know, in a different universe, being in a different like body or whatever, and kind of, because brain gives you so much limitations sometimes, all these comforts, all these, because, in your life, you listen to maybe, I don't know, 100 or 200 or 500 artists that you like. All your melodies are some of these, artists. It's like, like ChatGPT or these AI tools are generating things. They are like just reading all the stuff on the internet, and they're like, writing things based on this stuff. But this, in the same, I believe in the same way, your brain works. And you just need to be crazy. Otherwise, you will start to copy yourself.
Yeah, that's fascinating. What a good answer. And it's cool to hear you talk about that. You know, I can hear it in your voice that you sort of like come to life with that, thinking about the songwriting. When it comes to songwriting, what are some of the things that you feel like are worth writing about? And have you seen other people write about something in a song where you think, God, that was just so great. What a great topic. I mean, I feel like emotion and how we feel and experience and all those things are really important. But sometimes people can be so clever with lyrics, you know?
Yeah, that's another game. Like lyrics, it's crazy. But again, I think the same with the lyrics are the same as with melody. You just have to write a lot, and this is what, like, we all hear about overnight successes, like, oh, this artist, they dropped the new single or whatever and they are now successful. But, well, the guy wrote thousands and thousands and thousands of lyrics since he was 4, maybe. I have a bandmate who is he's a journalist, and he has been writing like short form essays or poetry or something like that since he was, I don't remember, like 1st or 2nd grade. And he's very smart with the words.
Yeah, that's like my buddy Chris, who's just been writing all the time. Sometimes it's hard because we can find ourselves comparing our own ability to write to those people, and that's not fair. Like, I can't go back to 2nd grade and start all over. So I got to, just move forward from here. So
but
great encouragement.
But sometimes you need much simpler lyrics, know, because I don't know. I know that during the songwriting process, we've written plenty of songs together with this guy, and he's very clever when it comes to lyrics. But sometimes he's too clever, and we can't use it because the pop culture. There are certain rules that you don't want university level language in your songs,
right?
And that's the kind of little trick that sometimes being a bit, let's call it a bit dumber in some kind of things are way much better because it's so much more understandable.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's relatable. And because if you just have a lyric and a song idea that anybody can listen to, and then they can say, okay, now I'm going to take that idea and I'm going to apply it in my own head to my own life, then it becomes something that really connects with the listener. And then the other thought, when you were talking about writing 100 songs in a summer, which is very inspiring because, sometimes I'm like feeling proud of myself if I've written 2 songs in a summer, is the idea that one of the reasons to create and write a lot is the reason why you need to make so many bad songs is so that you can get them out of the way to let the good songs come forward. It's like you're clearing the path. Sometimes that's what it's all about,
Yeah, and I believe that motion creates emotion, meaning you have to, like, lots of people are telling that, oh, I'm not inspired. I don't have a drive today. Well, of course, human nature is not, write songs and produce tracks 24/7. Our nature is to eat, sit on the sofa, lay down.
Right. Netflix.
Yeah, this is our brain doing the tricks with us. So doing 100 songs is just like, when you're going to a gym or a jog, or lifting weights, you need to do these 10 reps until only then the muscles will start grow or something like that.
Yeah.
And the same with songs. It just, I mean, I did grow up and I was not a songwriter. I wrote my first song that I kind of actually started to like was when I was maybe 24 or 25 years old. And then I decided, well, let's just start writing. And there were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of very bad demos and songs. Like, I can't even listen to them. But then, like, once in a while, I started to make these summer camps with myself, like 100 songs, like, songwriting challenge with myself.
That's great.
And it works. It just works.
That's great. Well, very cool, man. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. Andris, it's been a blast to get to know you and just chat with you about, these incredible microphones that you guys are building, but then really fun to just hear you sort of light up talking about the creative process at the end there too. Very cool. let the rock stars know, where would you like them to go? So we'll mention it one more time. They should go check out the greatest, most amazing deal ever at...
The link is JZ Microphones, the full name, jzmicrophones.com/rockstar.
Okay, great. And rock stars, go get yourself a deal that's too good. What is it? An offer too good to refuse. Something like that. I can't remember how I should say that the right way, but that's awesome, dude. Thank you so much for setting that up for us. We really, really appreciate that. And of course, my goal here is to help the rock stars make their best record ever. And there's no better way to start than by being able to get a microphone that is going to let you make your best record ever. So we really appreciate that.
Thank you, Lich.
Yeah, man. Thanks for joining us, rock stars. Thank you for listening. If you have any further questions, drop a comment in. If you're watching this on YouTube right there, drop a comment in. If you have some other way to do it, that's fine. If you want to email me with questions, just reach out to Lij, L-I-J, at recordingstudiorockstars.com. Again, that link should be in the show notes. And then if you have questions directly for Andris, I'm guessing your contact or something like that is on the JZ Mic website as well?
Yes, I will put in that jzmicrophones.com/rockstar. I will put like visible line with not just my email, but whenever you can't decide which product to choose or whatever questions you have, feel free to reach out. We are a small company, we are a small team, and we love to get in touch with the clients.
Awesome, dude. Well, thank you again, and I look forward to seeing you in person again. I guess last time I saw you was at NAMM.
It was a NAMM show.
2020 or 2019.
I think it was, yeah.
So hopefully we'll see you again soon, man. Yep. All right, dude. Thanks for listening, Rockstars. Cheers. Thanks so much for listening to Recording Studio Rockstars. If you enjoyed the show and want to help make it better, then please share this episode with your friends on social media and leave a rating and review on iTunes to help the podcast reach more rock stars like yourself. You can click directly over to iTunes or go to rsrockstars.com/review for an easy explanation. And remember to hit the subscribe button to keep up with weekly episodes. And if you're ready to make your best record ever now, then head over to Recording Studio Rockstars Academy, where you can start with my free course at mixmasterbundle.com. Thanks so much for listening, and thanks for being a rock star. I'm Lij Shaw, and this is Recording Studio Rockstars. Now, go make great music. Recording Studio Rockstars would like to give a big thank you to our awesome sponsors who help make this episode possible. Lewitt, Atom Audio, Native Instruments, Isotope, Spectra 1964, and OWC. And remember, at isotope.com and nativeinstruments.com, use the coupon code ROCK10 for 10% off any plugin purchase. If you enjoyed Recording Studio Rockstars, please check out our sponsors using the links in our show notes, because it's a great way to help support this show. These are all things I highly recommend for your studio. They're going to help you make your best record ever. I would also like to thank our fantastic team here at Recording Studio Rockstars, Vlad Weselchenko, Braden Stremming, Liz Hulitskaya, and Roberto Oxman de Aragao for additional podcasts and video help. Thanks so much for listening, Rockstars, and we'll see you in the next episode. Cheers.